So it's very good to see you here. And thank you for joining this presentation. I do take care of mobile gaming partnerships, but I'm going to be talking today a little bit about mobile in general. And just so that you know, so a little bit of my background. I worked for about 10 years in the games industry. All of those 10 years for Electronic Arts in a number of different countries. Then I did some mobile business development at Nokia, a little bit of Yahoo, and then I've been working for Google for the past 4 years, something like that. The last year alone, focused on mobile and gaming. And to get started straight away, anyone can tell me what is wrong with this image? And I'll give you another 5 seconds. What is wrong with this image? Everything is wrong with this image. Now that's reality, right? Would you agree? Have you seen this change happen in the last few years? Your homes, at work? What we have seen in the last few years, right, is a movement from here, where there is one device that basically dominates personal life, into something more akin like this, fragmentation, an increase overall of many different devices that actually, in most cases, do not necessarily yet communicate with each other, but all of them offer different experiences, some of them entertainment. Now, everyone here in this room today has in their pocket a gaming console, right? Until a few years ago, this didn't happen. And why did this happen? Talking about mobile, this is what happened in the last few years. 2014 was actually a very interesting year. A few critical things happened last year. For the first time ever, there were more mobile phones in the world than people. Now that includes all types of mobile phones, including feature phones. But it is nonetheless a massive, massive milestone. Think about it. There's more mobile phones than people. Also in the last year, we reached 7.4 billion mobile connections from 6.9 billion the year before. So within 1 year, 600 million more connections happened. And that includes all types of connections, obviously, most of them mobile. This is essentially what we call it nowadays the Internet of Things. So the Internet of Things that sometimes we consider is something that is coming is actually very much present in our daily lives today. Most importantly for us in this industry, right, is that most of that growth that happened in the last year, 2 years, 6 years, actually came from, specifically from smartphones. 88% of the growth in mobile connections in the last year came from smartphones. And in addition to that, right, when we talk about growth in the usage of smartphones, specifically, we're talking about the growth in time spent in apps. I mean, this has been very well reported, but the numbers still feel staggering when you think about them. Users are spending 30 hours every month in apps. And that's just an average globally. In reality, if we think about our own usage, you will realize very quickly that you probably spend much more time in apps than that. But even so, even looking at this average, right, that is an increase of 65% in 2 years, within 2 years. And most of that growth is happening right here in Asia. Right? So a few weeks ago, we had a press conference in Taiwan. And the main topic of that conference was that basically we announced that based on data that we have and that we're gathering from other sources, Asia is already the world's first mobile-first region. And the data that you can see here is actually kind of very, very telling. This is, we compiled some data with a research company of the number of smartphones in each country versus the number of PCs. And as you can see, a number of countries in Asia are right there at the top in terms of a higher percentage of smartphone ownership than the percentage of ownership of personal computers. Now, Singapore is right there at 11%, but we have a few countries that are actually higher than that. Most importantly, Asia is not already the world's first mobile-first region. It's actually becoming the world's first mobile-only region. And this is just some data from different countries in Asia, which I'm sure you will be familiar with. But what we are seeing is that in countries like Malaysia, just around the corner, 35% of people who connect to the internet only connect to their internet on their mobile phones or other mobile devices. There's a few other countries in the region that also have high percentages. The one that is not in this list, by the way, is actually Myanmar. Anyone can guess the amount of people in Myanmar who only access the internet on their mobile devices? It's actually 49%. So half of the internet users in Myanmar are already accessing the internet only on their mobile devices. Now you're probably thinking, hold on a second, Myanmar is not exactly a hotbed of innovation in mobile and gaming. No, you're right. But what is happening right now in Myanmar is that it is becoming, right, a possible hotbed, a potential hotbed, 5, 7, 8 years, 10 years from now, to become a hotbed of innovation in mobile and in gaming. Going back to usage of applications, of apps in general, right? Data shows that users in APAC already spend most of the time in apps. And actually that compares very well with users in other countries, especially the US and the UK. As you can see, in Korea, China, Japan, a majority of users already spend most of the time in apps, including in Korea 13.4 hours a week, compared with 5 or 6 in the UK and the US. Most importantly for what I focus on, which is gaming in general, and specifically mobile gaming, gamers spend more time using smartphone and tablet apps than non-gamers do. So users who play games spend much more time. They bring the average much, much higher than those who do not play games on their smartphones. And this usage of apps and these trends actually mean that this changes how people watch video. This is some data that shows the number of smartphone users who report watching video on their smartphones. As you can see in China and Korea, more than 80% of smartphone users report that they watch video on their smartphones, compared with UK and Germany, where it's in the 50s and 60s. But most importantly, in a country like Korea, already more than 50% of video views on YouTube happen on mobile. So the YouTube mobile app has actually become the primary means of accessing video content on YouTube, and that is associated intricately with usage of smartphones. In addition to that, this also changes these habits, right? The increase of mobile data, mobile internet, the increase of usage of mobile apps also changes the way that they play games. In China and Thailand, more than 60% of users of smartphones, of owners of smartphones, report that they play games on their smartphones. Versus in Germany, where 20% of users report that they play games on their smartphones. To a certain extent, all of this data coming from APAC that is showing us that users of mobile phones and smartphones in APAC are actually, in a sense, leading the world in terms of ownership of smartphones, usage of smartphones, time spent in smartphones, number of apps used, number of time, or amount of time spent of apps in smartphones. And this is not really surprising if you think about one simple fact. In the last several years, there has been a significant increase of Asian companies that are taking the world by storm in terms of mobile technologies and mobile apps. Think about companies like Xiaomi, the one that actually provides my own smartphone, OnePlus, the OnePlus One, which has sold more than 1 million units in the last year or so. But even companies like WeChat, KakaoTalk, Line, right, which I'm sure many of you use, those are leading the world in terms of solving problems that in the past looked like they were specific to Asia, but which we are now discovering very slowly that it's not necessarily that those problems were only from Asia. It's just that the West hadn't realized yet that they had those problems until they encountered the solution that was being offered by Asian companies. So what this all is telling us is that Asia is and has been, for the past few years at least, the place in the world where most of the mobile innovation is happening. Mobile technologies and mobile software, mobile hardware. All of that habit, right, all of those increasing usage, actually also changes how we view things. And I thought you might enjoy this particular chart, where we did a study, and we went out and we asked users of smartphones what they would give up in exchange for not giving up mobile internet connections, mobile broadband. And these are the responses from several Asian countries. Now, quite interestingly, in China, for example, they will be happy to give away a few things like alcohol, chocolate, coffee, and fast food, as long as we didn't take away their mobile internet. Now, luckily for us, most countries in the Asia-Pacific region, or most owners of smartphones in the Asia-Pacific region, reported that they would not give up showers in exchange of not giving up mobile internet. So at least we still have some priorities clear. Again, luckily for all of us. This is another example of mobile innovation that comes directly from Asia. I'm going to assume that everyone here, except possibly any Americans in the room, know what a selfie stick is. Yeah? I see a lot of smiles around there, so let's just assume that yes. So this is a chart that we put together from Google Trends, which is a Google site where you can check the predominance of search terms over a period of time. So we put together information from several countries in Asia and the US on how many searches there were of the word selfie stick and the translations into the different languages in the region. As you can see, at the beginning of 2014, Indonesia and Malaysia, or users in Indonesia and Malaysia, started searching for the word selfie stick. And that shows a growth in interest, right? And those are the red and yellow lines. Now, at some point, maybe 1-2 months later than in Indonesia and Malaysia, the Filipino users started searching for the word selfie stick. And they went absolutely bananas. That's the blue line, searching for selfie sticks. Then after that, interest went down. In January this year, the Washington Post in the US published an article about selfie sticks. And they finally discovered selfie sticks. That's the green line at the bottom. You can see a little blip in January where kind of interest started to grow, again, based on searches at Google. This is a great example that in many cases, mobile or innovation in general comes from Asia, or specifically from Southeast Asia. From a certain perspective, actually, we could potentially define a selfie stick as a mobile device. Just for the next few minutes, I want to give you some thoughts and some kind of ideas on what you should be looking at in terms of mobile technologies, what the trends are, and some of them applying specifically to mobile gaming. The first one is a positive message. There is money in apps, and I'm sure many of you already know that. The caveat is that in many cases, in many categories, what is being demonstrated at the moment is that the winner takes it all. So there is room for one very, very good product out there that captures the attention of most of the users per category. Okay? The mobile industry and the mobile gaming industry specifically is maturing slowly, and with that maturity, it is harder and harder to find the right rankings and the right positions in the charts that are associated with higher numbers of users and a greater amount of revenue. So nowadays, when thinking about launching your app, right, you're not just thinking about launching an app. Figure out how you can turn that app into a thriving business. At Google, we can actually help you with that. We have expertise in a lot of different products, user acquisition, marketing, community engagement, monetization, analytics. We'll be more than happy to help you turn your app into a thriving business. The second thought is that it's Asia that matters. Asia is where the largest amount of smartphones and mobile users and mobile gamers are in the world. Think about it this way. In India this year, there are going to be more smartphones sold overall than in the United States. Asia is starting to wake up to that, and specifically emerging markets in Asia. So you're in a really great place of the world. You already have knowledge about Asia, how to do things for Asia, how to solve problems that may be eminently Asian. Think about the US and Europe, of course, but don't forget that Asia is a good place to start your business. The third one is the advent of the AAA franchises, and this applies more to mobile games. What we are seeing is, thanks to the maturity of the industry, we're seeing more intellectual property and licenses in games coming to mobile games. And that means two things. First of all, it drives more business, but most importantly, it also means that there are more and more users that expect quality versus quantity. And finally, social is becoming a key engagement tool in your mobile business, whether it's gaming or otherwise. For example, stores are starting to work with social platforms. There is more paid social discovery. There is more social engagement and retention. And finally, there is a lot of engagement happening in video, thanks to YouTube and a lot of other services. And moving into the future, just some thoughts. There's more and more mobile devices coming into play, becoming mainstream. Smartwatches are one of those. This year at CES, there were 550 companies showing wearables, many of them smartwatches. Smartwatches are not necessarily a great mobile device platform yet, especially for games, but they have the potential to become one. And the same goes for virtual technology, VR. VR has been driven by games so far, but this year I fully expect that it will become a much more mainstream technology. And hopefully by next year, by CES, there will be 550 companies showing VR technology devices that again will be driven more into the mainstream. Just to finalize, the mobile business in general and mobile gaming specifically is a very challenging business to be, but it also provides great rewards if you figure out how to turn your app into a mobile business. And as I mentioned, at Google we're very happy and quite ready to help you do that with the knowledge that we have and the products that we offer. There's a number of Googlers in the room today and also going around the show floor. Please don't hesitate to come over to us and talk to us about how we can help you do that. Thank you very much.